My beloved child. There are moments that seem ordinary until you realize they were quietly rearranging your future. This is one of those moments. Before your eyes move to another place, allow your heart to remain here for just a little longer. You did not arrive at these words by accident. Somewhere beneath the noise of your daily life, a question has been echoing without a voice. Why has the path of love felt delayed? Why does every step toward the person who feels strangely familiar seem blocked by invisible walls? Today, that silence begins to change. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet shoreline just before sunrise. The waves move gently toward the sand, carrying secrets from a place too distant for ordinary eyes to see. The sky has not yet decided whether it will remain in darkness or welcome the light. That space between night and morning is where your story has been waiting. Not forgotten. Not abandoned. Simply unfinished. There is someone whose heart has been carrying your name far longer than you could ever imagine. They have spoken it only in whispers. Sometimes only inside their thoughts. Sometimes while staring through a rain-covered window. Sometimes while pretending to smile in rooms filled with people who never noticed that a part of them was somewhere else, with you. Yet there has always been one question standing like a mountain between your two lives. The difference in age. It has appeared larger than it truly is. It has convinced others to speak before they understood. It has invited opinions from people who never carried the weight of your heart. But listen carefully. Mountains look permanent until the one who formed them decides otherwise. Long before anyone measured years, counted birthdays, or compared timelines, heaven already understood every chapter of your story. Human eyes often calculate numbers. They count seasons. They measure appearances. But love born from purpose has never depended on mathematics alone. Think of David, the overlooked shepherd who appeared too young to carry a kingdom. Think of Sarah, who laughed because hope seemed older than possibility. Think of Ruth, whose future arrived through unexpected paths that no one around her could have predicted. Again and again, Scripture reminds us that what people dismiss as impossible often becomes the very place where unexpected grace begins to grow. Your story may not resemble theirs in detail, yet it carries the same quiet rhythm. Not because life is repeating itself. Because hope always finds new ways to bloom. Perhaps lately you have noticed small moments that make little sense. A familiar song arriving at exactly the right time. A stranger saying words that unexpectedly stay with you. Dreams you cannot completely remember, yet their emotions linger throughout the day. Doors closing that secretly protected you. Delays that frustrated you before revealing hidden blessings. These moments are easy to ignore. Yet together they begin forming a picture. Like stars that seem scattered until someone traces the constellation. The person connected to your journey has also been noticing these unusual moments. They cannot explain why certain places remind them of someone they have barely spoken to, or perhaps someone they have not yet met in the way their heart already recognizes. They try to move forward. They convince themselves it is only imagination. They tell themselves that practical decisions matter more than quiet feelings. But every attempt to silence their heart only makes its voice clearer. That realization has become impossible to escape. Still, another obstacle remains. Not because love is absent. Because fear has become louder than hope. Fear asks impossible questions. What will people think? What if our families disagree? What if everyone notices the age difference before they notice the kindness between us? What if this connection costs too much? These questions arrive like dark clouds gathering before a storm. They seem enormous while they are overhead. Yet clouds have never been able to stop the sunrise. They only delay the moment when its beauty becomes visible. The heart connected to yours has wrestled with these thoughts more times than you know. Some evenings they have almost convinced themselves to walk away. Not because their feelings disappeared. Because they believed protecting both of you required silence. Yet silence carries its own pain. Every unspoken word grows heavier. Every hidden emotion becomes another unopened letter inside the soul. Eventually even the strongest walls begin to crack beneath the weight of what remains unsaid. Can you feel it? Something has already begun shifting. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like roots growing beneath winter soil where no one can see them. The world celebrates visible victories. Heaven often begins with invisible preparation. While you wondered why nothing appeared to be changing, countless small moments were already moving into place. Conversations you never heard. Decisions made without your knowledge. Lessons learned through disappointment. Hearts softened by time instead of force. Nothing has been wasted. Not your waiting. Not your tears. Not your unanswered prayers whispered into pillows during sleepless nights. Not the mornings when you smiled for everyone else while quietly asking if your own happiness had somehow forgotten your address. Every one of those moments has become part of a larger story. And larger stories require patient beginnings. Close your eyes for a moment and picture an old garden after a long winter. The trees appear lifeless. Branches seem empty. The ground looks cold and silent. Anyone walking past too quickly would conclude nothing beautiful could possibly grow there again. Yet beneath the frozen earth, life is already preparing its return. The first blossom never announces itself loudly. It simply appears. One morning everything is different. Love often arrives the same way. Without asking permission from fear. Without waiting for perfect timing according to human expectations. Without consulting the opinions of those who cannot see beyond appearances. There is another truth you have not fully considered. The age difference that others may focus on has become the very place where unexpected strength has been growing. Different experiences have shaped each of you. Different seasons have taught different lessons. One learned patience through waiting. The other learned courage through loss. One discovered resilience while rebuilding broken dreams. The other found compassion after walking through disappointment. Separate journeys. One destination. What once looked like distance may actually become balance. But balance always invites testing before it becomes visible. That is why strange coincidences have begun increasing around you. Names appearing unexpectedly. Places crossing your path more than once. Memories surfacing without warning. A feeling that someone is thinking about you at moments you cannot explain. These are not answers. Not yet. They are invitations to remain attentive. Because the next chapter will ask something unexpected of both hearts. Not perfection. Not certainty. Only honesty. Somewhere, perhaps much closer than you imagine, someone has reached the edge of pretending everything is fine. The mask has become too heavy, The carefully rehearsed smiles no longer feel convincing. Every attempt to bury their feelings has only caused those feelings to grow deeper. And soon, a single conversation, one unexpected encounter, or one seemingly ordinary decision, will begin uncovering what has remained hidden for far too long. But there is one truth about that moment that neither of you is prepared to hear, and when it is finally revealed, nothing about this connection will ever look the same again. A quiet evening will arrive without announcing itself as extraordinary. The sky will wear soft shades of gold fading into deep blue, and the wind will carry the feeling that something unfinished is about to find its voice. Neither of you will expect that such an ordinary moment could become the turning point you have been unknowingly moving toward for so long. The one connected to your heart has spent countless nights trying to convince themselves that distance, opinions, and the difference in your ages were enough to silence what they truly felt. They repeated the same reasoning again and again, hoping logic would overpower affection. Yet every attempt only led them back to the same place, your memory. There were moments when they almost reached out. Their hand paused over a phone. Your name appeared in their thoughts while driving, while walking through crowded streets, while sitting alone after everyone else had gone to sleep. Each time they wondered, what if I have misunderstood everything? That single question became the chain holding them back. Yet another voice, quieter but stronger, refused to disappear. It reminded them that genuine connection is rarely convenient. It reminded them that some of life's greatest blessings arrive wrapped in circumstances that others struggle to understand. Think about the story of Ruth and Boaz. Their journey did not unfold according to expectations. It unfolded through faithfulness, kindness, and quiet courage. What seemed unlikely to many became part of a much greater purpose. Sometimes the path that appears unusual is the very road where unexpected grace is waiting. As these thoughts continued to grow, something inside your soulmate slowly began to change. They stopped asking whether the age gap made sense to everyone else. Instead, they began asking a different question. What if I lose the person my heart has never truly forgotten because I was too afraid of what others might say? That question refused to leave. It echoed through peaceful mornings. It lingered during busy afternoons. It followed them into silent nights. The fear that once protected them began transforming into regret. And regret has a remarkable way of revealing what truly matters. Around this same season, you may have noticed changes within yourself as well. Perhaps your heart has become calmer after months of uncertainty. Perhaps certain disappointments no longer hurt as deeply as they once did. Maybe doors you desperately wanted to open quietly remained closed, only for you to discover that those delays prepared you for something far more meaningful. Growth often feels invisible until you look back. Like a river carving its way through stone, change happens little by little, until one day the landscape is completely different. There is another scene unfolding that neither of you can yet fully see. Someone close to your soulmate, someone whose opinion once carried tremendous weight, is beginning to notice a change in them. They see the distant smiles. They notice how conversations suddenly drift toward hope whenever your name, or someone who reminds them of you, enters the discussion. They realize this is no passing emotion. The secret has become too bright to remain hidden forever. Not because it has been announced. Because love has a way of revealing itself through the smallest details. Through softened eyes. Through unexpected laughter. through moments of silence filled with quiet peace. Soon, a conversation will begin that neither of you expected. It will not feel dramatic at first. In fact, it may seem surprisingly ordinary. Yet within those simple words lies the beginning of something that has been preparing itself for far longer than either of you realize. Before that moment arrives, remember this. Do not allow someone else's timeline to define your own. The world often celebrates what appears acceptable while overlooking what is authentic. But hearts transformed by patience recognize that lasting love is built on character, trust, and mutual respect, not merely on numbers written beside a birth date. If this story is encouraging you and you're enjoying the journey, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It helps this message reach others who may also need a reminder that hope often grows quietly before it becomes visible. Now another layer begins to unfold. There is something your soulmate has never admitted aloud. They have imagined introducing you to the people who matter most in their life. They have pictured conversations that have never happened. They have wondered what your future home might feel like, what ordinary mornings could look like, and how peaceful life might become if fear no longer stood between you. These were not passing fantasies. They became silent prayers. And every silent prayer has left a mark upon their heart. Still, one final hesitation remains. It is not the age gap anymore. It is the fear that you may have stopped waiting. That fear has quietly become their greatest obstacle. And what happens next will force them to discover the answer in a way neither of you could have anticipated. The answer they have been searching for will not arrive through a grand announcement. It will begin with a single unexpected moment that seems almost too ordinary to matter. Yet history has always been shaped by moments that looked insignificant before they changed everything. Picture an old pathway through a quiet forest after the rain. The leaves still hold tiny drops of water, reflecting the first light of morning. Every step forward feels uncertain because the path bends beyond your sight. You cannot see what waits around the corner, but that does not mean the destination has disappeared. Sometimes the next turn is hiding the very answer you have prayed for. This is where your soulmate now finds themselves. For so long they believed time was working against them. They thought every passing day was creating more distance between your lives. Yet recently they have begun to realize something unexpected. Time has not been separating you. It has been preparing both of you. The lessons each of you have learned apart are becoming the very qualities that could strengthen what comes next. Patience has replaced impulsiveness. Compassion has softened old wounds. Wisdom has grown where disappointment once lived. The journey has changed both hearts. And transformed hearts recognize one another in ways that words cannot fully explain. There is another scene quietly unfolding. One evening, while everyone around them seems distracted by ordinary conversations, your soulmate suddenly hears someone speak about relationships built on trust instead of appearances. The words are simple, almost casual, yet they strike their heart with surprising force. For the first time, they stop asking whether others will approve. Instead, they begin asking whether fear deserves to make their decisions. The answer comes quietly. No. That single realization becomes the beginning of their courage. It is remarkable how one honest thought can open a door that years of hesitation could never unlock. Scripture often reminds us that perfect love casts out fear. Not because fear never appears, but because love eventually refuses to let fear remain in control. Courage is rarely loud. More often, it is the quiet decision to take one faithful step even while uncertainty still exists. Your soulmate is approaching that step. Not with complete confidence, but with a growing peace they cannot ignore. Meanwhile, your own story has not been standing still. There have been days when you questioned whether waiting had any purpose at all. You wondered if unanswered prayers were simply echoes disappearing into silence. Yet every disappointment has slowly been teaching you to recognize the difference between temporary emotions and lasting peace. The person you are becoming today is stronger than the version of yourself who first began this journey. You may not notice it. Others probably do. You carry yourself differently. You respond differently. You hope differently. That quiet transformation matters more than you realize. Because lasting relationships are rarely built by two people who never struggled. They are often built by two people who allowed their struggles to shape them instead of hardening them. Now another hidden truth begins to surface. There is someone observing all of this from the background. Not to interfere. Not to oppose. But to quietly encourage. Perhaps it is an older friend, a trusted family member, or someone whose wisdom comes from years of experience. They have noticed the sincerity in your soulmate's heart. They see that this connection is different from anything before. Without fully intending to, they will speak words that become the final confirmation your soulmate has been waiting for. Words so simple they almost seem ordinary. Yet those words will stay with them long after the conversation ends. And once they hear them, there will be no returning to silence. The walls built from uncertainty will begin to crumble one by one. Not overnight, but steadily. Like sunlight slowly filling a room after the curtains are opened. The age gap that once appeared like an unmovable barrier will begin to lose its power. Because genuine respect, kindness, and commitment shine brighter than assumptions ever could. Still, the greatest surprise has not happened yet. Your soulmate is carrying one secret they have never shared with anyone. A decision. A hope. A dream about the future that includes you in a way you would never expect. They have guarded it carefully because speaking it aloud would make it feel real. And reality requires courage. Very soon, circumstances will leave them with only two choices. Continue hiding what their heart already knows. Or finally allow the truth to step into the light. The decision they make in that moment will reshape everything that follows. And just when they believe they are finally ready to reveal their heart, someone unexpected will appear with a piece of information that changes the entire direction of the story, leaving both of you standing at the edge of a future neither of you saw coming. Just when everything seemed ready to move forward, life introduced one final test, not to destroy what had been growing, but to reveal how genuine it had become. The unexpected person who stepped into the story was not an enemy. They were someone who unknowingly carried a missing piece of the puzzle. During what seemed like an ordinary conversation, they mentioned something your soulmate had never heard before. It was a simple observation, yet it shook them deeply. You've never spoken about anyone the way you speak about this person. Those words settled into the silence. For a long moment, your soulmate had no answer. Because it was true. Every conversation somehow found its way back to you. Every future they imagined somehow included you. Every prayer for peace somehow carried your face within it. Until that moment, they had hidden this truth even from themselves. Now there was nowhere left to hide. Sometimes the greatest revelations do not come through miracles that stop the world. Sometimes they arrive through ordinary conversations that gently uncover extraordinary truths. Think about the disciples walking on the road to Emmaus. They did not immediately recognize hope walking beside them. Understanding came gradually, until suddenly everything they had experienced made sense. Life often unfolds that way. Only after looking back do we realize every delay had purpose. Every unanswered question had been quietly preparing a greater answer. Your soulmate began revisiting memories they had tried to forget. Moments that once seemed insignificant suddenly carried new meaning. A smile they couldn't explain. A conversation that lasted longer than expected. A feeling of peace that appeared only when thinking about you. Each memory became another thread woven into a picture they could no longer ignore. Meanwhile, something equally important has been happening within you. Without realizing it, you have become less dependent on perfect timing. You have learned to breathe through uncertainty. You have discovered that peace is not the absence of waiting, it is trusting that waiting is not empty. That quiet strength is becoming one of your greatest gifts. Because when two hearts finally meet, they must be able to carry one another through future seasons. Preparation always comes before responsibility. There is a beautiful picture in Scripture of a seed falling into the earth before new life appears. For a season, nothing seems visible. Yet beneath the surface, everything is changing. Your story has lived in that hidden place. Not forgotten. Growing. Strengthening. Preparing. Now another unexpected moment begins to unfold. Your soulmate finds themselves alone beneath a sky filled with countless stars. The world around them is unusually quiet. No distractions. No opinions. No pressure. Only their thoughts. Only their heart. For the first time in a long while, they stop asking everyone else for answers. Instead, they listen to the stillness. And within that silence comes remarkable clarity. The age difference no longer feels like the center of the story. Love does. Respect does. Shared purpose does. The kind of peace that cannot be manufactured does. They realize they have spent too much time fearing conversations that have not even happened yet. How many dreams disappear because people surrender before the first step? Not this one. Not anymore. If this journey has touched your heart so far, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments which part spoke to you most. Your story may encourage someone else who has almost given up on hope. Now the story turns once again. A door that has remained closed for longer than expected begins to open, not dramatically, but quietly. An unexpected message. A chance encounter. A familiar name appearing again after months of silence. Any one of these moments could become the spark that changes everything. Yet neither of you knows which one it will be. That uncertainty is not meant to create fear. It is meant to awaken expectation. Because hope often arrives disguised as an ordinary day. The most beautiful chapters rarely announce themselves in advance. They simply begin. Still. One final truth remains hidden. Your soulmate has already decided something in the privacy of their heart. It is a promise they have made without speaking a single word aloud. A promise that, if fulfilled, could reshape both of your futures forever. But before that promise can become reality, one unexpected voice from the past is about to return. And what that person says will force your soulmate to choose between the life they once planned and the future their heart has been quietly choosing all along.